Hello and welcome to this podcast titled History of the Ormond Beach, Florida area. We will be taking a journey back in time starting 16,500 years ago and winding up in current times. My name is Randy Jaye, and I am the host of this podcast. The earliest known humans to live in the North American continent were hunter-gatherers known as Paleoindians. These people began settling in North America at least 16,500 years ago during the final glacial episodes. That was the last ice age. The Tomoka Mound and Midden complex near Tomoka State Park in Ormond Beach represents the earliest known indigenous human occupation in the Ormond Beach area. Indigenous peoples settled in this area starting at least 5,100 years ago and lasted until the mid-1700s. The Timucuans, descendants of the Paleoindians, lived in the present-day Georgia and north-central Florida area for thousands of years before the time of European contact in 1513. It is estimated that the Timucuans numbered about 200,000 and were organized into 35 chiefdoms over an area covering 19,200 square miles when the Europeans first arrived. By the late 1700s, these people were eradicated due mainly to Eurasian-introduced infectious diseases, the slave trade, and warfare. The first Spanish period lasted from 1513 to 1763. Spanish explorer and conquistador Juan Ponce de Leon landed in Florida, a land the Spanish christened La Florida in 1513, and claimed the territory for Spain. This was the first sanctioned European expedition to what is now the United States. Juan Ponce de Leon's claim, or land grab, was the beginning of the European invasion of North America. Most of the activity in Florida during this period consisted of military garrisons, missions, and strategic shipping ports. During this period, the present-day Ormond Beach area was mostly a remote wilderness, sparsely populated, and had a few Spanish land grants, agricultural settlements, ranches, and timbering operations. The British period lasted from 1763 to 1783 and was responsible for the rise of the plantations in Northeast Florida. The Spanish handed all of Florida to the British after the 7 Years' War, that's known in the United States as the French and Indian War, for a territory trade. The British divided the former Spanish Florida into East and West Florida. Most of the Spanish subjects took the majority of the Florida's living indigenous people, including the Timucuans, and fled to Cuba and other areas of their empire when the British assumed control in 1763. The British were desperate to populate Florida, so they handed out land grants and promoted the development of plantations and other forms of commerce and transportation. The present-day Ormond Beach area became the home to many large plantations that used black human slave labor to build and maintain the economy. One example of a British plantation still visible today is the remnants of the Three Chimneys sites located in Ormond Beach. Three Chimneys was a sugar plantation, sugar mill, and rum distillery established in 1764 by Richard Oswald from a land grant issued by British King George III. The second Spanish period lasted from 1783 to 1821. Florida was transferred back to Spain in 1783 after the American Revolution because Spain was an ally with the United States against the British. Most of the British citizens fled from Florida, and the Spanish government began recruiting people with land grants. Spain began losing global power and ceded Florida to the United States in 1821. Florida remained a U.S. territory until 1845. The present-day Ormond Beach area prospered with a network of large industrial plantations and infrastructure to transport products. Black human slaves provided the majority of the labor. Two examples that are still visible today are the remnants of the Bulow Sugar Mill plantation in Flagler Beach and the Dummett Plantation Sugar Mill ruins in Ormond Beach. The Second Seminole War was a conflict from 1835 to 1842 in Florida between the United States and various groups of Native Americans collectively known as the Seminoles and their allies. Many of these allies were black and were sometimes called the Black Seminoles. It is regarded as the longest and most costliest of all Indian conflicts in the entire history of the United States. Osceola lived from 1804 to 1838. He was a war leader and is the most famous Seminole Indian of all time. The Second Seminole War devastated the Ormond Beach area. The Seminole Indians and their allies attacked and burned fortifications and plantations using scorched earth warfare, which ruined the area's economy. United States militia forces escorted most of the area's surviving people, including black slaves, north to St. Augustine. Most of these people did not return to the area because of the devastation left behind by this war. Soot from the 1836 burning of the Bulow Plantation sugar mill is still visible today on some of its Kokona building stones. The Ormond Beach area was sparsely populated from 1842 until after the American Civil War ended in 1865. The Second Seminole War ended in 1842, and Florida became the 27th state of the United States in 1845. Before and during the American Civil War, the live oak tree trade, timber used to build ships, was a significant area seasonal industry. During the Civil War, a large cut stack of live oaks on the banks of the Halifax River was purposely burnt by Confederate forces before Union forces could seize the valuable logs. Salt was a critical commodity during the Civil War, and local salt works were constructed from abandoned plantation iron sugar vats. Local salt was sold by the bushel to the Confederacy. On an historical note, the first Florida state flag was very eccentric, as it included the words, "Let us alone." This flag was short-lived for obvious reasons, and no originals are known to exist. Post-Civil War European settlement. In 1865, John Andrew Bostrom, guided by Israel, a former black plantation slave, came to the area, then informally known as Tomoka Settlement. Shortly afterwards, Bostrom and his brother homesteaded land and built a palmetto shack. They lived off the land and grew citrus, bananas, and potatoes, and eventually built 3 homes. The Bostroms attracted visitors, boarders, and additional settlers to the area. By 1873, more European settlers were staking claims and building log cabins in what is today Ormond Beach. Some settlers repurposed stones, bricks, and equipment from abandoned area plantation ruins to assist in the building of homes, farms, and commercial buildings. In 1874, Daniel Wilson and George Millard came to the area from New Britain, Connecticut, to start a settlement on the west side of the river, opposite of where the Bostroms' property was located. They cleared land for their homes and orange groves and lived in a primitive camp while they were building a settlement capable of raising their families and establishing a functioning town. In 1875, the town of New Britain was officially founded. Within a few years, others arrived in New Britain from different parts of the country, and now with over 50 families from different areas, the town of New Britain was destined for a name change. In 1880, the town of New Britain was incorporated into Ormond, named for James Ormond II, an earlier plantation owner. James Ormond I, II, and III. James Ormond III was born in Scotland on May 7, 1815. He arrived in Florida in the fall of 1824 with his mother, 2 sisters, and a brother. His father, James Ormond II, had come over earlier to work the family's plantation, a plantation called Damata, which was left to him by his father, Captain James Ormond I. The plantation had been a Spanish land grant. After his father's death, Ormond III gave up the plantation and trained to be a merchant. During the Second Seminole War, he returned to Florida, where he was shot 4 times during the Battle of Dunlawton. During the Civil War, he guarded Union prisoners at the infamous Confederate prison Andersonville. He moved to Atlanta but returned to the area. In his later years, James Ormond II is the namesake of modern-day Ormond Beach. Sudan and Liberia communities. Free blacks began settling in the Ormond Beach area in the late 1800s. The community in the vicinity of the Tomoka Road and White Street, called Liberia, was settled by a group of black immigrants from the African country of Liberia. Another community settled by blacks, some from the African country of Sudan, was in the vicinity of Dix Avenue west of Selden Avenue and to the east of Lincoln Avenue, and this community was called Sudan. Until the late 1960s, these communities remained predominantly black and were referred to by many area residents as the colored end of town. In 2012, the Ormond Beach City Commission voted unanimously to place 2 welcome signs to identify the Liberia and Sudan communities. The Ormond Hotel was the most recognizable landmark in Ormond Beach for over 100 years. It was built in 1887 by John Anderson and Joseph Price and opened January 1st, 1888. In 1890, Henry Flagler purchased the hotel and transformed it into one of the most famous hotels in the world, a playground for the rich and famous of the time. After Flagler's renovations, it was the largest wooden structure in the United States and included 11 miles of corridors and breezeways. The structure was located on 80 acres of land and stretched from the Halifax River all the way to the Atlantic Ocean. In 1957, it was converted to a retirement hotel. In 1987, it was evacuated due to its dilapidated condition. After numerous attempts to restore the structure, they all failed. It was demolished in 1992. Henry Flagler's railroad modernizes the area. In 1885, Henry Morrison Flagler, who lived from 1830 to 1913, began a quest to modernize the east coast of Florida and immediately realized that an efficient and fast railway system throughout the state was required. Flagler purchased several local railroads and then converted them into standard gauge. In 1893, all of these railway companies were merged into the Florida East Coast Railway. This railway connected the entire east coast of Florida from Jacksonville to Key West. Flagler's company is recognized as playing a key role in the modernization of Florida, including the Ormond Beach area. In 1902, Ormond Beach's smooth and hard-packed sands became a proving ground for automobile inventors and daredevil drivers. An official beach racing was born. The first time speed tournament, starting in 1903 in the U.S., earned Ormond the moniker birthplace of speed. The Ormond Garage, built in 1904 by Henry Flagler, was the first gasoline alley before the Indianapolis Speedway. The historic structure burnt down in 1976. In 1911, after numerous world records were set on Ormond Sands, the official auto racing moved to Indianapolis. Bill France continued racing on the beach in Daytona Beach and went on to found NASCAR. John David Rockefeller, who lived from 1839 to 1937, was an American industrialist, philanthropist, and founder of the Standard Oil Company, which dominated the oil industry as a monopoly and was the first great U.S. business trust. Rockefeller is considered to be a robber baron and was the wealthiest person in modern history. He possessed more than 6 times the combined wealth of Bill Gates and Warren Buffett. In 1918, Rockefeller purchased the Casements Mansion in Ormond Beach, a rather modest house considering his massive wealth. He became known as Neighbor John and hosted elaborate Christmas parties and handed out dimes to area children. He died in Ormond Beach at the age of 97 and was one of the area's most famous residents, probably the most famous resident of all time. During World War II, Governor Spessard Holland, who lived from 1892 to 1971, ordered a blackout of coastal area lights so that they could not be seen at sea by U-boats and silhouette the passing ships. Beaches were closed at night, all lights near the coast were turned off, or all the windows had to be shielded with black covers. Cars traveling at night had to have their headlights shielded with black paint. The Ormond Beach Watchtower is one of roughly 15,200 watchtowers that were built all along the coast of the United States. It was manned by civilian lookouts armed only with binoculars and a telephone, ready to alert the Coast Guard to any incoming air or sea threats, especially U-boats. Nazi U-boats managed to sink 24 ships off of Florida's coast during World War II. Jim Crow racial segregation laws began in 1877 after Reconstruction, mostly in the Deep South, including the Ormond Beach area, and lasted almost 100 years. During this era, blacks were relegated to second-class citizenship with few opportunities, while white supremacy was legally protected. Jim Crow laws were finally outlawed by federal civil rights legislation. The Civil Rights Act of 1964 prohibited discrimination in public accommodations, facilities, and schools. The Voting Rights Act of 1965 suspended the use of literacy tests and poll taxes, and the Civil Rights Act of 1968, Fair Housing Act, were the final blows that axed Jim Crow laws throughout the U.S. Modern-day Ormond Beach. New Britain, then Ormond, evolved from a swampy, wooded wilderness to a playground of the rich and famous in the early 1900s. The city was renamed Ormond Beach on April 25, 1950. Now, early in the 21st century, Ormond Beach's population continues to grow. It was 38,137 in 2010 and was reported during the 2020 census to be 43,080. Today, the city is a modern commuter town, bedroom community, and family vacation destination known for its beautiful natural beach, parks and gardens, scenic loop, elegant homes, historical landmarks, and cultural offerings. Historic sites in the Ormond Beach area. There are 15 sites on the National Register of Historic Places in Ormond, including the Lippincott Mansion, the Porches, and the Anderson Price Building. In addition to the 15 sites on the National Register of Historic Places, the area has more than 60 other historic sites, including the Ruth Redmond House, the McDonald House, the Nathan Cobb Cottage, Emmons Cottage, the Coquina Pillar Monuments, and Oak Ridge Black Cemetery.